Okay guys, welcome back, and this session is on understanding and learning your partner's origin story. And so we're going to explore some of our childhood conditioning and what the beliefs about love and about relationship are that we carried forward from our first family into our present day adult relationships. Now, to do this, we're actually going to take you through a model of the exercise that we've designed for you that is called the forgiveness process. This is a process that we inherited from our teacher that we worked with in the container of shadow work and tantra for many, many years. Ben still works with him in his men's groups. And this process is designed to give you a bit of an insight into your mind, some of the past conditioning that you might not be aware of, some of those unmet needs or some of those hurts that might be still alive for you regarding a caretaker or somebody from your first family. And it also gives the partner an opportunity to learn more about you and to see your heart, and also for us to learn how we can show up more for each other. So whenever Ben does this process with me and lets me in on his reality, some of the ways that he was hurt when he was younger, it always opens me so much, and I just want to show up more for you and love you more. And it helps me soften too, to see your heart and to see your defenses for what they are. And that allows me to engage with you from a place of heart rather than head, which is the whole point of all of this work that we're doing, which is kind of that emphasis we've had this whole time.
People sometimes have this belief that this kind of work needs to be done on your own. It needs to be done away from your partner and in some kind of like safe place where you don't have to expose yourself to them. And I find that to be, it's not conducive to creating the type of connection and intimacy that we want in relationship. And doing this work together, although can be a little bit scary, can be scary to be seen, be vulnerable, in the end, vulnerability creates intimacy and bonding. Mm-hmm. So that piece is one of them. The other piece is that it's important to look at our past and how we grew up and ask questions about it, and realize that, like, we like to just sort of put the past in the past and it's gone and we shouldn't have to talk about the past. That is conditioning from my parents' generation, that you don't look back because there's some nasty stuff back there and we don't know how to deal with our emotions. Mm-hmm. You know? But inevitably what you find when you dig around in your past is there is stuff that's unresolved, and you can resolve it if you give it energy, if you give voice to it. So this is a process of going into the past, creating a safe space to expose what's there, and maybe find some healing and definitely some bonding and some intimacy throughout the process.
Well, when you're bringing me your edge or when you're getting defensive, I have flashes of those stories that you told me, or I drop into those moments where you were sharing something really vulnerable about how you were hurt or dismissed or disregarded in some way as a kid, and it really makes me want to show up for you. So an example would be when you told me about when you went to Europe with your brother. Mm-hmm. And he took your fries, he took your French fries from you.
Yeah.
Right? And that really hurt your feelings, and he broke a toy of yours. He sort of like took all of your stuff. So this is like a big story in Ben's past. They went on this family trip, and his brother, the bully, he really like took advantage of and disregarded your things, and so you felt really dismissed and hurt and taken advantage of in that moment. Mm-hmm. So I, knowing that, because he's shared that story with me and sort of more of the pain underneath it, I've always done this practice where whenever we're eating something really yummy, like whatever kind of treat it is, like I always save the last bite for Ben. Even if I want it, it fills me up so much to be like, here's the last bite is for you, because it's this gesture of, hey, I'm gonna help you heal that childhood wound. I want you to know that you are important to me, and that I love you, and that you're appreciated, and that I'll never take advantage of you. So it's like these little things that might seem silly or insignificant, significant that makes such a big difference when you're becoming an ally to your partner's healing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna model the forgiveness exercise for you, and I want to say a few things before we start about the anger piece. So in this dyad, we're going to use the sentence stem, I'm angry at you because. So a few things to know about that. One, it's totally okay to have anger. You're allowed to use that word and own that. Some of us find it really difficult to own that we have anger. We might have learned that it's not okay or that it's bad. So this is a practice for you to just try that on. If anger is more comfortable for you, like I'm a pretty fiery woman, so I'm happy to say that I'm angry. It feels okay for me, but I've worked with a lot of people who aren't that comfortable with it. And so what I say is just try it on as an exercise and give yourself permission to go there. The other piece is that we are talking to a caregiver or somebody from the past. This is an exercise in clearing resentment or hurt or anger from the past, using a partner as a stand-in for that energy for you. So if I'm the one sharing, Ben's the one holding space, I'm going to let him know who I'm going to be sharing with. I'm not actually saying this to Ben, he's just holding space for me as that person, as that energy. So this gives you an opportunity to sort of express yourself and some of the things that maybe you never felt comfortable saying, or that you know you couldn't say to somebody from your past because either they're not in this work with you, or they're not able to do this work with you, or maybe they're not even present. And it's really actually not that helpful or useful to bring this stuff directly to a caregiver or a parent. It can actually cause just a lot of hurt and confusion. So we do this as a team inside of our relationship so that we can support each other without having to ever bring that to the person that we're talking to.
Yeah, so we're going to model this exercise and we're going to do it in a shortened form. We're both going to go, but you will have longer to do this process.
And so you'll be able to access this exercise in your PDF, so you have more guidance. So we're gonna just model it for you, and I'm gonna set a timer. You're gonna need a timer to do this process. We're just gonna do 1 minute on each sentence stem. So the sentence stems that we're going through today are something that I want you to know is, I'm angry at you because, I'm hurt because, and something that I see in you that I see in me is, okay? So we'll just take a moment to eye gaze, and then you can let me know who you want to do.
Okay, Shalina, I would like to do the forgiveness meditation with you. Do you have space?
Yes.
Are you available?
I do.
Thank you. I'd like to do this with my brother today, and I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to start the timer, and then you can begin sharing.
Arthur, that's my brother's name. Something I want you to know is that I feel like I don't know who you are. Something I want you to know is I never have felt safe enough in your presence to open up my heart and really care about be curious about you. Something I want you to know is, in my mind, I often just see you as dangerous and unstable and a risk to my safety, my parents' safety. Something I want you to know is I'm apathetic about having a relationship with you. I'm angry at you because you dominated all the energy in the house when I was a kid. I'm angry at you because you consumed all of my parents' resources and didn't show any gratitude. I'm angry at you because we spent all of our time trying to help you. I'm angry at you because I never really felt safe around you. I'm angry at you because I still don't feel safe around you. I'm angry at you because you always have your shields up. I'm hurt because I never felt safe. I'm hurt because you never respected my space. I'm hurt because you often took my things away and claimed them as yours. I'm hurt because you seemed to often want to hurt me. I'm hurt because you hurt my parents. I'm hurt because you felt entitled to anything you decided was yours. I'm hurt because we don't have a relationship. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is stubbornness. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is like a bullheadedness, the ability to just like railroad over people and situations. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is a strong work ethic. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is dominant personality. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is a good heart, cares about people.
Thank you for sharing. So the next piece of this is, before we move on to the other side, we're going to validate and empathize with our partner. So after sharing something really vulnerable, there can be what we call a vulnerability hangover, where we start to feel really anxious or regret what we shared or wonder what the other person is thinking of us or judging us. And so it's really important that after we share and receive something from our partner, that we kind of mirror back to them that we heard them and that we validate and empathize with what they just shared. So I'm going to model that now. And again, remember, you're going to have a guidance for this in your worksheet as well. Okay? So I want to thank you for sharing with me your experience of growing up with your brother. And you make so much sense to me, because it sounds like growing up you were never safe, and that you were always having your things taken, and that your space and that your belongings weren't respected. And I can imagine that at times you might feel like that history is repeating in our home when I take something of yours or use something of yours or don't take care of something that is yours in the way that you would like me to. And I just want to acknowledge that that must feel really upsetting and almost even terrifying at times when you've worked so hard to overcome that experience. And yeah, I'm really honored that you let me into your experience today. I love you.
Love you too. Thanks, babe.
Mm-hmm. Ben, I would like to make an appointment with you to do the forgiveness meditation. Are you free?
Yes.
Thanks. I would like to do the process with my mom today. Okay.
Start this timer. Okay.
Mom, something that I want you to know is that today is your birthday. And I spent last night thinking about your inner child and feeling a lot of sadness in my heart for all of the things that you endured when you were really little. And something that I want you to know is that I love you, and I wish that I could feel the love that I have for you in my heart when I'm in the same room as you as I do when we're apart. Because I find it really hard to be in my heart with you all the time. Sometimes I feel more triggered when I'm around you or upset. And yeah, I still feel this longing to just be with you in the space that I feel, even just right in this moment when we're together. Something that I want you to know is that I feel really sad that we don't get to share together. I want to share more experiences together. Mom, I'm angry at you because I feel like you blamed me for the foster homes and the abandonment and the things that happened to me in childhood where I should have been protected. I'm angry at you because you didn't really show up for me when I needed you. I'm angry at you because I feel like you didn't show up for yourself. You kind of gave up on yourself and tried to hurt yourself a lot, and that really impacted me. I'm angry at you because you told me a lot of negative stories about my father instead of keeping that to yourself, and it caused a lot of shame in me. I'm angry at you for hurting yourself. Mom, I'm hurt because I feel that I didn't get to experience what it was like to really have a mother-daughter relationship. I'm hurt because I feel like I always have to be the strong one in our dynamic. I'm hurt because I never got to receive protection and nurturance from you. Mom, I feel hurt by you because I didn't really learn how to trust or how to feel safe when I was growing up. Mom, I feel hurt because we don't get to share an adult relationship together the way that I would like. Mom, something that I see in you, that I see in me, is a person who can get really passionate and creative, but also quite chaotic. Something that I see in you, that I see in me, is a runner. I really picked that up from you, and I can really become a runner in my own life when things get hard or as soon as relationships get challenging. I notice that I really want to run instead of staying in the game. Mom, something that I see in you, that I see in me, is a dysregulated nervous system. It's really easy for me to get overstimulated and just really get hyper aroused by the things going on around me, or lights and sounds. I'm jumpy.
Thank you, Shalina, for sharing that with me and for being vulnerable. Yeah, I want you to know that you make sense. And it makes sense to me that sometimes you feel overwhelmed in our relationship, and that as a child you often experienced an unsafe emotional field. You were blamed for things that you didn't feel were, that you should be receiving blame for, and in general you were not supported and safe to just feel your emotions and be a normal kid. You had to grow up so quickly, and that was really scary. And in some ways you had to be the parent. You had to be your own parent, and it's really hard. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Thanks. Okay. Okay, so we modeled the forgiveness process for you, and before we send you off to try it together, we wanted to just break down a little bit of that process for you and give you some guidance along the way. One of the really important pieces of that whole process is mindful listening. So really making eye contact with your partner while they're sharing, being really present in your body and listening with your heart. And the other piece is the mirroring, validating, and empathizing. So you'll notice that both of us said the words, "you make sense." And this is a really important line when you are empathizing and validating your partner. You want to say, "you make sense." "You make sense" helps us feel really safe and seen. And then when we are mirroring back, we're just giving a little bit of a summary of what we heard. It doesn't have to be word for word, just a little bit of what we heard. And then the empathizing is when we're talking about how we imagine that our partner might have felt. So you'll notice that I said, "I imagine that it might have felt terrifying for you." And he said, "I imagine that was really scary, that was really hard." So we're just connecting to our partner's experience, and we're imagining what it might have been like for them. Validating is just the simple act of saying, "you make sense," and what you are saying and feeling and experiencing is right and good.
Yeah, I went to counseling school. I got a degree in counseling, and this is counseling 101 stuff. This like validation of what the other person's saying and empathizing. And yet my natural way of being in our relationship is I forget to do that with you, right? We forget to do that with each other. And in that way, we kind of like take each other for granted. And so we have to remember to do this. So that's why it's really good to do exercises, because it makes sure we cross all the boxes. You tick all the boxes.
It might feel a little bit weird at first to be following a script. I know with us, doing it is always a little bit wobbly at first when we're trying out a new dialogue, because it feels really scripted and you're like, well, this isn't authentic. The thing is, though, is that the script is just allowing you to get to your feelings, which are authentic, because there's no script for what you're supposed to say about what you're feeling or what your experience is. It's just a really clear pathway for you to get there. And it keeps you, I like to say, keeps you on the rails. Like, think about it as a bowling alley. It's those guardrails that prevents you from falling off on the other side, which means like trailing off into too much of the story, or trailing off into blame, or trailing off into accusations, or whatever the script is, right, that you've got internally. And so by following this script that we have for you, or by following a different dialogue that you come across in your own path, it just allows you to create that extra sense of safety, and keeps you on the rails.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's one of the tools.
Yeah. Okay, so go and try this process with your partner. I want to say to really take time for this. So when you are about to do this process, make sure that you're both feeling rested, make sure you're feeling nourished, make sure you both have the capacity the emotional capacity, the mental capacity to hold space for something if it's to come up and it feels really big. You don't want to do this process when you're really tired or when you've had a really horrible day and you're irritable. You really want to do this when you both feel like you have the capacity to, go into the emotion of whatever is to come, and for you to be able to validate and empathize with your partner and their experience. So we recommend that if you've planned tonight or today as the date night, that you do that now. And if that's not where you're at, then make sure that you schedule time to do the forgiveness meditation in the very near future.
Just before we go, I want to mention that after you do this exercise, there can be a lot that's come up during this. For some people, sharing, let's say you share about your father, you might contact some stuff that you haven't felt since you were a child or in the last decade, for instance. And it's some heavy emotional stuff. And it's very common, that this stuff happens for people. And that's okay. Like, you might need to just have a huge cry with your partner after this or during the process. And know that you're safe. Know that that's a normal part of the process, and that your partner is just here to support you in moving through those emotions. That's what this is for. And you can support each other just by holding space and being there for each other. So afterwards, take lots of time to integrate what comes up for you. You might need to lay down with your partner and cry for 2 hours. You might need to do some breath work. You might need to go for a walk or have a bath, eat some ice cream, or you might need to journal and just spend some time alone. And you might want to maybe call your family member that you just did this process with, but I would encourage you to wait on that and just allow this stuff to percolate and integrate and allow it to move through you. So just know that whenever you decide to do this process, that some stuff can come up unexpectedly, but that you are perfectly capable of healing and moving through whatever does come up. You just got to give it space.
Yeah, and I think it's important to not take action on calling whoever you just did the process with. The point of doing this with a partner is that you don't need to contact that person and share everything that you said with them in order for you to heal and to forgive or to move that energy in your mind and in your heart. I did the mother process with Ben about 12 times. I've never done that with my mother, and it really has created a lot of healing for me, a lot of change in my psyche, and it's made our relationship stronger. The reason that we don't recommend that you call that person is because this is actually quite deep work that not everybody signs up for, and it's a little bit invasive and confusing for people to hear this type of honesty and get that it's not personal unless they're really engaged in this work with you. So unless you have a magical unicorn of a mother or father like this guy does, with parents who are in the work, which is super rare, don't do that. You don't need to do that. You can just do it with your partner, and you can, like we said, journal or whatever you need to do to integrate. And remember that, your relationship with your caregivers or whoever from your past can shift in your mind without you having to involve them.
All right, enjoy the process, and we'll see you in the next session.